Alright, here it is. The spotlight I've been working on for 2 days. A lot of hours into this. The spotlight for the 2020 Ford Explorer Police usually comes from the factory with it. This one didn't, but we want it to be a police cruiser now instead of an administrative car. So we wanted to add a spotlight. And to put the spotlight in, you need to drill through the A pillar, which is right there, where that metal thing's sticking out. And you can see how thick that is. That's a structural piece of the car. There's a tube in there, about a 1-inch tube, double-walled steel, like a roll cage. So it's pretty nerve-wracking to drill through that, and it's really hard to drill through that. So I broke 3 drill bits and said, all right, that's not going to work. Plus the angle, you're going this way, so the bit wants to jump. It's almost impossible. So you have to drill there, and you have to drill on the other side. Take all this off. There's an airbag in here. There's airbag anchor bolts that are in the way. All kinds of junk. There's an air vent. It's horrible. So getting this rod through there took some work, and getting it straight at the right angle. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done on a car, believe it or not. I ended up using a plasma cutter to cut through that metal. It worked great. The only scary thing about that is it sends sparks flying, risk of fire. Once I got through this side of the beam, the sparks were shooting into the car, so I had thick gauge metal behind it, and I was just watching, making sure that the embers went out, didn't catch anything. I didn't end up with any burn holes or anything, or any stink in the car, because I had that blower blowing the smoke out of the car. It's a 2020, it's scary. I hate doing this. But it needed to be done. So the next challenge was the spotlight that I had from a 2017 Explorer. Everything was too short. So once I got that hole, I realized the spotlight was not going to work. The handle didn't have enough room inside. It needed another 3 inches about. So I called Adamson Industries, who does all the vehicles, the police vehicle upfitting in the area. They didn't have any, and they don't even install them. They said that's a Ford factory option. They don't get into it because it's so close to the windshield. You crack the windshield, you can't get another one. Right now, they don't even want to deal with it, so they don't do them. So what they did have is, I looked through their spotlights. They had a 2009-ish Crown Vic spotlight that was new in the box. They'll never use it. They ended up giving it to me, and I said I'll try to make that work because the diameter of the shank was the same as this one. So what I ended up doing is taking it all apart, both spotlights, and making one out of it. And it was so complicated because there's gearing in here. There's one positive lead to make the light turn on, and the whole unit is grounded through the metal, so that positive lead can't have any contact with any of the metal in here, even through the gears and all that. So I had to do exactly the way it was and just redo it, only 3.5 inches longer. So I drew a little diagram of what the end of this end needed to look like, all the measurements, because there's 3 rods inside this post, and each one does something different. This one, when you turn the handle, I don't have the handle here, for the spotlight, it's going to turn this part. You can see on the end of this, when I turn the spotlight, see how that end of it turns? So that does something. And then this larger one, when you turn that, it makes it go like this. So you can have 360-degree light. And then there's another collar sleeve that goes over this whole thing. You can see there's all grease on this. I just finished it and greased it up. So all 3 of those pieces, plus the wire inside, there's a wire to the end of it right there. There's a wire and an insulator, and it goes right through the center of this tube. So I had to add 3.5 inches to this tube, 3.5 inches to the wire, 3.5 inches to this, 3.5 inches to the collar, and it all had to work. And this positive lead couldn't have any contact with metal. So you can imagine how hard that was. And all of these clearances, 3/4 here, 1/8 of an inch there, and then 1 16 inches to this collar that goes on here. All of those had to be right. So I spent some time doing this, and you can kind of see the weld marks, and they all had to be perfectly straight because everything turns inside of it. You can see my grind marks. I welded in pieces of that Crown Vic tube right there. This one I just ended up doing just this, but the one in the middle I had to put a piece in the middle. So there was 2 welds, and they had to be perfectly straight and the same diameter inside for the wire and the same diameter outside to fit in the next tube. So I tried it last night. It works. I just worked on the mount, on the A-pillar mount, because nothing worked on this car. The mount for the other 2017 didn't work on this. Totally different angles. So this mount came with the Crown Vic one, and it almost looks universal. But there's nothing behind it to screw into. It's just this plastic piece, and then there's an inch of air, and then it goes into the pillar. And part of it's the hole right here where you drilled through, so it's like impossible to screw in. So behind the scenes I had to weld in brackets that come up to the plastic that I could screw into to get a nice solid mount. So I got that done this morning, and I'm ready to slide this thing in. So it's going through the tube, it's going around that anchor I put in for the mount, it's going through some metal for the trim, and then it's going through the A-pillar support, both sides of that huge channel. Then it's going through the air vent, and then it's going through it's going around the airbag support bolt that I had to customize, and then it's going through the interior finish panel, and then a grommet, and then I put the handle on. So there's a lot of stuff that had to be done. It has to be perfectly straight through the whole way for it to come out the other side, and it was kind of a personal challenge for me. I got it done, and I get to send pictures to the police upfitters at Adamson and show them that I did it, because they thought I was crazy. And they'll really think I'm crazy when they realize I did it with a Crown Vic in a 2017 Spotlight. So that's what I've been up to for 2 days, and I'm going to bed.